Imagine your sugar daddy spoiling you, and the moment his wife found out, you gotta return all that sugar due to a court order. Fendi, like the bag. This is the I Refuse podcast. I'm not talking about Nene, I'm not. Welcome, everybody. I am back. It is Mr. Fox and the I Refuse podcast. And I thought I'd deviate from the usual on the channel and give you the latest installment of Mixed Nuts. Now, if you've been listening to the streaming side of I Refuse podcast, this is our third season on streaming platforms. If you've been listening lately, I've been on this series called Mixed Nuts, and there are currently 5 episodes on the streaming platforms dedicated to just a mixed bag of crazy, unsuspecting stories. And I figure I'd give y'all a glimpse of what it's like. So for this installment, Mixed Nuts 6, basically just, again, another mixed bag of random events that are not related to each other, but definitely rings true to the theme of WTF. So, a few things. Before I go into the episode, Happy Pride Month. Stop wasting your tears and your data plans and your money on dudes or whoever you're into that have basement apartments. Still use 3-in-1 and have push-up tiles for ceilings. Also, in order for us to fully progress as a community, we need to be on the same page, and that means sharing the same definition for inclusion and diversity, which means not only entertaining and embracing people that look just like you, but also not making it about you. Black people and people of color especially are not a monolith, and we are more than bed warmers and criminals. And with that, we should be respected as much more than what we have below the waist. So, moving on, getting into this episode. Lanithia, close your legs to marry men leaks. Girl, what you doing? So, post Greg Leaks' death, from the sidelines of things, she's kind of been crumbling brand-wise. She has the lounge, which I've heard mixed reviews about, but I may check out at some point once Atlanta gets its car accidents and its chaotic energy together. Then at some point there was allegedly a suit that she was filing against Daddy Andy Cohen and Bravo against the racism behind the scenes that they've allowed via Kim. Which is funny about the suit because Kim's not listed in the suit. But I haven't heard any more about it since the news broke. And then all of a sudden, there were stories coming out that she was dating this Nigerian guy. Nice, handsome, attractive guy who, interestingly enough, looks similar to the guy that Jennifer Williams will be, I guess, dating on Basketball Wives this season. Bald-headed, tall, somewhat football build, and a salt and pepper beard. Not bad. But I was interesting because, the running theme in Atlanta via Real Housewives of Atlanta over the years is that women that are in the midst of a divorce or in the midst of a separation, or in Nene Leakes' case, after their spouse passes, there's a story or an allegation or a sighting that, or an implication that they're dating an African guy. And what we see from Nene Leakes is that she is no exception. But okay, at least it seems to be age appropriate. I ain't tripping. And I was like, okay, I'm with it. You know, Greg has been gone for a while. No big deal. Well, just as we were starting to get comfortable and settled, there's a story that came out either last week or this week that led me to believe that all along, Nene Leakes has not been following Sierra's prayer. She's been listening to Fantasia's prayer. Because her boyfriend, Paramore, or whatever you want to call it, is still allegedly legally married and in a, not only married, but in a very involved companionship, domestic partnership with a woman who has allegedly filed a suit against Nene Leakes for being with her husband. They're saying estranged, for being with her husband while he's still married. And it's roughly somewhere in the 20K to 50K range. And I was like, oh God. This takes me back to 2013, 2014, when Fantasia was dealing with that Sprint PCI rap while he was still married. And I know that in the South, in some states in the South, the legal spouse, whether in an active marriage or estranged, can file a suit against the other woman for liability of what's called isolation of affection or something like that. And, you know, as I was sitting here drinking my coffee, I was like, what a turn of events for Nene Leakes, because for those of us that have been lifelong stains of Real Housewives of Atlanta since 2008, 2009, remember those illustrious words that she said to Kim at the first reunion. Close your legs to marry men. Close your legs to marry men. Close your legs to marry men. Remember? It was these two fingers, I think she said. Close your legs to marry men. And here we are, damn near the Jetsons out this bitch, that she finds herself in a situation. And I know, like, also as being a lifelong Real Housewives of Atlanta fan, that Nene kind of doesn't practice what she preaches. She kind of slips and slides a little bit. You know, allegedly laying hands on Kim off camera and then chastising Portia on camera about her antics with laying hands on King and other people within her staff at the time. And, you know, Nene does play at one point did play big sister to Portia, but it's like, come on, girl, we gotta practice what we preach. And in my heart of hearts, I believe that Nene laid hands on Kim off camera. I mean, shit, she about did it on the tour bus on camera. But I know Nene likes to put on for an audience too. But also Nene and Kim were friends pre-show. The arguments don't even be the same. But this is where we are right now. And I thought, you know, I don't know, like, if it's just part of something bigger that's to come, whether it's like maybe her return to reality TV. Because if you notice that, like, whenever a particular castmate is off of a show, there's usually some stuff happening. With Nene, so far, she has publicly made up with Kim. She started the lounge. She has the alleged lawsuit with Bravo against Andy. That's probably not going to go anywhere. She has a situation with this Nigerian guy. And, not for nothing, Nene has put Atlanta Housewives on the map. I mean, if not for her mere presence being on the show, it's definitely her absence that we feel the strongest. That, Atlanta's kind of been suffering. It's not the same. And for better or worse, depending on your opinion, facts are the facts that, Nene does make the show. And she is the bona fide leading star of the show. And it's not the same without it. But moving on, secondly, this Monique and DL thing, it's frustrating because we're at our big age now where we're still being tacky. Anything that's, handled behind the scenes and you are of knowledge and awareness, whether with your team, your management, as to how things will be at these set of dates, through the deal memo, which is essentially a draft to present to management or your team, and you guys have a discussion, which means you're aware. And I believe, with any deal memo, there's even a piece in there as far as what it will look like on the ticket stubs, the roll call schedule, who goes on when, for how long, who opens, who closes. And, even with that, I will even go a step further and say at this point, she should be having all this energy that she had in lamb blasting DL on stage at his own show for her husband, Sydney. Because it's ever since he's been her manager, things haven't been going well. And I understand that, being asked a question during the interview, you have to be honest, because I would do the same thing. But you just got out of, or not out of, but passed or through a situation with the whole Lee Daniels, Steve Harvey, Oprah Winfrey situation. You finally got your public apology from Lee Daniels, which was big of him. He was part of an interview with T.S. Madison, and all credit goes to T.S. Madison for working her magic. Just by proxy, having the car interview with Lee Daniels and having an interview with Mo, on both of which occurred on Maddie's channel, just to get the dialogue going. Sometimes that's all that needs to happen. Is you could have conversations with two public parties, not gaslight, not mix or stir the pot. Just have conversations and just inquire, and do it in a safe space of love and support, and then just let the universe take care of the rest. And that's what ended up happening. But Monique just got out of that situation, right? And she's getting roles. 50 Cent's going to put her in BMF, which I'm going to be looking forward to. You're getting work that helps show the world your range more, you know what I mean? It's just not comedies, but you can do dramatic stuff. But we're back on this self-grandizing, performative, let me drag this N-word again, and let me boast that while you opened on the Kings of Comedy, I closed on the Queens of Comedy. But here's the gag. Like, Kings of Comedy came first. So a lot of us are led to believe that had it not been for Kings of Comedy, it wouldn't have been Queens of Comedy. But also, that was almost 20 years ago. And not for nothing, like, as far as the headlining piece, like, at the end of the day, it was DL or DL's team that reached out to you, which leads me to believe that you're on his show. And at this point, nobody owes you anything. Like, you're not a new comic, you still have a fan base, and you can still work the comedy circuit just based on your name alone. I remember I actually went to see Monique at I believe it's the Baltimore Comedy Factory where she started back in the late 80s. Really great show. We were probably 2 or 3 rows back. Not a problem. Still funny as hell. Like, she can still get work. Like, if things aren't popping in front of the screen or behind the screen or behind the camera, you can still work. You know what I mean? She still has a huge fan base, and she should be able to eat off of that real fine. And I believe she still lives in Baltimore somewhere. So it's not like you're hurting to the point that you need to act up on people's shows and tour dates and stuff. And I heard, DL's side, try to keep it classy. He came out after her piece, her rant or whatever, and made, some jokes, that, her role in Precious looked more like an autobiography at this point. And it's like, I hate to see, like, the adults tussle like this, but understand that, like, it's not surprising that Monique goes off the way that she does. I mean, she keeps a buck. That's part of her comedy. But it leads me to wonder, we really got to be more delicate and more, like, we got to play the game a little bit better. Or at the very least, improve, like, the talent or, progress with our comedy. Because DL really doesn't bother anybody. And just the fact that both y'all's names were on the ticket really serves both y'all really well. And you never really want to go against anybody that has a huge platform. Because aside from the comedy, DL, like Steve Harvey, has a nationally syndicated radio show. A lot of people listen to him. His audience is bigger. And he's non-problematic. Like, speaks about very serious things, doesn't bother anybody, does his comedy, does his interviews, goes home. And it's one of those things where it's like, we got to be real careful, especially in certain areas. Like, popping off, whether you're a comedian or, you're on stand-up or you're on a radio show, just cracking jokes in certain cities against certain people. And it's like, you say certain things, you could really piss off not only the comedian, but their spouse. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if DL's wife met Monique backstage and was like, no, say that to my face. Because it's like, you want that ice. Like, the last thing you want to do as a black celebrity is piss off, family in that same industry. But yeah, Monique really needs to take that up with her husband Sydney. Like all these career choices and this energy she has to alienate and isolate herself, which probably in her mind she thinks she's doing really well and it's necessary to pop off the way she is, but it's really hurting you in the long run. Like with all this energy you had the last 10 to 15 years, you really could have maximized the opportunity to put yourself in like the independent lane, have your own business or production company or agency, network outside of those that have done you wrong in your mind, and really gone the distance. Like really study the behind the scenes, and really leave your mark. You know what I mean? Like you've gone from comedy to dramatic roles, and not only that, but like independent movies, and people love it. Like I still need to see Shadowboxer. She was in that. Very interesting story, but another dramatic role that a lot of people overlooked. But it's like a lot of people won't see that past how you acting out in these streets. And it's unfortunate. It's like, really gotta chill a little bit. Like, they got you on videotape on large stages. This isn't like a little comedy club on 40 or a little comedy club on Route 1 or a little comedy club in a Hickville like jukebox area. This is like larger venues like auditoriums and shit. And don't nobody want to pay them high ass seats to hear you bitch and moan about another person on the ticket. And not for nothing, like there were other receipts that people had as to the things that are a reflection of her being difficult to work with, her being a diva. Ma'am, like, for you to have a long ass list of food items that you want, I guess, in your dressing room while you're on these limited number of dates. I don't know how long I guess this was a full-fledged tour, how many dates the tour was. But she had a long list of food items, from different kinds of wings to, I think, 2 or 3 types of paper towels to like 4 or 5 different kinds of fruit drinks and liquor and stuff. It was very much given, I went to a baby shower and left with 4 plates because I don't feel like cooking tonight. Like, just say your refrigerator is bare at this point. That was very much what it was given. And those of us that have like nice federal government jobs that go to like the white people baby showers and the white people potlucks and have that like 1 or 2 coworkers who don't bring like a bag lunch normally. So when they go to these little functions, they always leave with like 2 or 4 plates. They're walking down the aisle like this. They got a plate here, 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 a plate here, and a plate here. And they're walking like this. And they will eat leftovers the rest of the week. I'm like, oh girl, you need to cook. And I know a girl personally I used to work with that would do that every week. And just as smiling, I'm like, okay, girl. But yeah, like that list was very much given, I went to 1 date as a comedian because I'm not cooking when I get home. And I knew something was a little off when she referred to her husband as daddy. And neither one of them hoes is in their 70s. Like, I expect that from like white people that retired to Florida to like them RV neighborhoods and wear like matching polo shirts and white shorts and walk around with the Yorkies in their bosoms around the property or driving to the Costco. like the late age white women's be like calling them husbands daddies and their husbands calling them mommy. I expect that from them. But it's cringy when, the black folks do it. Like, you doing that in interviews and stuff? Like, I didn't come to YouTube for that. So, I don't know. I suggest she get, like, another manager. See what Will Packer can do for her. See what, somebody with a reputable name and please some PR people to help her rebrand herself successfully and neutralize that mouth a little bit better. Like, nothing wrong with a little tact, nothing wrong with working on that comedy routine a little bit more. Like, you can turn trauma into comedy, you know what I mean? Like, maybe it's too late for her, I don't know. But I'm a strong believer in lifting somebody up, not just putting them down. And I don't think I really put her down that much. Still a fan. But moving on. I don't know if it's the heat or the humidity that got y'all cutting up the way y'all doing out here in these streets, but what y'all in a rush for? That y'all are like jumping curbs and hitting poles and like hitting partitions and jersey walls and those little concrete or metal poles that be in front of department stores. Like, whole front end just gone. All these accidents in Atlanta got me thinking it's not time for me to go back to visit yet. Last time I went, I drove through Atlanta, like around Atlanta, to visit some of the Atlanta Housewives spots and kept my ass in Marietta to rest and relax. Cause I just can't. Like, aside from the fact it was my first time actually being in Atlanta, like I do with all my other stops when I travel, I am goal oriented. Like, if there are a group of spots I want to go to, I'm going straight to those spots. And I'm going back to my room and board, or my hostel, or my Airbnb, or my hotel room, and I'm laying low. Like, I'm not staying out after the sunset. I'm not staying at a red light. If I am out at night, I'm making sure I hit them green lights just right. I know some cities, y'all live and function on having a street of lights that don't sync, and I'm just not here for it. Baltimore is better about it, but it's certain streets, it's certain thoroughfares where it's just not syncing, and I'm just like, ugh. And then y'all got all these speed cameras and stoplight cameras. I know Baltimore recently added a lot more, which is why I avoid 83 a little bit more. And I've been doing that anyway because I know y'all love the tussle, but I'm gonna need y'all to stop acting like y'all student drivers. I've had just recently, the past month or so, people just, in the world of GPS, just cannot get it together. Had a guy the whole trip down to 83. It was 3 lanes. And then as soon as the right lane is split off down to 83, he decides he wants to, at the last minute, go across 3 lanes and take 83 south. Other times, it's the other way around. And it's like, you didn't see that big green sign up the street? Especially when it says this lane only. I'm gonna just blame it on the tap water that got y'all acting like this. It's getting hotter now. It was 90s this week. Starting this past weekend. I just don't have the bandwidth for you fools. And, I know you girls love to tussle, but just stay home. And mind your business. Mind your backyards, the nonsense in your backyards. Like, just because you have a social media account doesn't mean you gotta be in everybody else's business. I mind my own for the most part. I may participate in one or two posts, but every so often, just like every other cycle in the universe, there's always this person that does the same thing. We all have a Facebook friend or a social media follower that we forgot all about. Don't hear from, don't get a text, a voicemail, or a phone call from. That just has one judgmental reply. You weren't even talking to them or about them, but they have so much to say. Like, I remember not too long ago, I was in a Facebook page, and I posted a picture of this guy that was really cute. And somebody I had met like once years ago was kind of coming at me sideways. Oh, your husband's brother-in-law? Oh my God, oh my God. And I was thinking to myself, you need to save this energy for the 10 kids you don't see on a regular basis. That's what I was thinking. But I didn't say that, I just let it rest. And then, after, not so long after that, there was a discussion around, every year since his passing, his friends would post. Now, mind you, these are the same people that kind of dialed back and disappeared not so long after his funeral as far as keeping in contact. People say shit that sounds good or feels good to them, but they ended up not doing it in the long run. So I had said something in the comment section of a post of one of his friends, and then another one of his friends came right under my comment and said it wasn't about me, which was funny because she made their friendship all about her. Just like she made the moment about her. I know you girls like to tussle, but that mouth, you can only be tough toned to an extent when you don't have a vehicle and you rely on other people to get you around and you're not active otherwise. I know you girls like to tussle, but you gotta be a little bit, choosier about your battles and a little bit more pickier about who you lay with and who you want to pick with. Because some of us are really good at closing and shutting shit down and pissing people off and then moving on with our lives. This is Mr. Fox I Refuse podcast. Happy Pride Month. Be on the lookout on streaming platforms for a new episode called Boys on the Side next week, where we really get messy. And I'm kicking it off because I got some shit on my chest about some community things that have gone down recently, but also community things that continue to go down at the expense of Black people and people of color. Since we're supposed to be about community, but we're not practicing what we preach. Be on the lookout for that on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well as 6 other streaming platforms. Link is in the bio on the YouTube channel, on the Twitter, on the Instagram. And it's in the link on the bio on YouTube. So this is Mr. Fox I Refuse podcast. I will check you guys out later. Bye.